Welcome to Prince Talk, Chronicles of a Jamaican Educator, Episode 2. This feature is one where Jamaican educators and academic support staff will share inspirational and motivational stories about their journeys. It will highlight the fun and profound moments that brought meaning to the classroom space. These stories will be used to impact persons who may seek to venture into the educational arena. These stories will also be used to highlight the undeniable importance of the teaching profession in any and every space in the world. So, Lady of the Hour, what is your name?
My name is Simone Bennett.
And how long have you been teaching?
I have been teaching for over 8 years, almost 9. Started teaching in 2012 and I'm still teaching today.
What is your area though of specialization?
My area of specialization is the performing arts, particularly drama in education.
And this area of specialization, could you share with us the source of motivation for actually becoming an educator in that particular field?
As far back as I can remember, I was acting. I was in role. I did not know what it was then. I didn't know of a term to attach to it. You know, whether to say it's an improvisation or it's a monologue, but I just knew that I was pretending to be characters. I would create characters in my mind and I would use emotions. I would pretend as if I'm speaking with another person and I would cry, I would laugh, and I just did that naturally. And I started doing skits at my church, as I would call it then, before I knew the formal term for it, which is improvisation. So I used to do these skits at my local church, and persons would come to me and say to me that they have been impacted greatly and I should continue to do that. Also, I had a friend who at the time was attending Academy, the College of the Visual and Performing Arts, and he encouraged me to apply for the college.
So based on your experience, it was innate.
Yes.
But you also had that external force and that came in the person. Would you like to share the person's name?
His name is Jabuki Mattis.
Wow.
An artist par excellence. And so he was one of the persons that motivated me to that end.
Awesome.
A special shout out to Jabuki Mattis. He is certainly someone that has spoken life into me in that regard. And I remember calling him up recently to say that if it weren't for you, I would not have been operating in my area of calling, because I believe now that it is my calling. In terms of my craft, in terms of creating, in terms of directing, in terms of writing, I believe that is my calling.
Thank you so much. Could you share with us a story that sums up your journey as an educator?
Like I said earlier, I have love for this craft. And before I knew what it was, I was doing it. And having been encouraged by my friend to venture into this area because I was good at it, I decided why not share it with others on a wider scale. And I think that venturing into teaching would have created a greater scope for me to do that.
So you actually went to Edna Manley College.
I did.
Could you tell us about one experience that you had at Edna that stood out to you, that concretized this, profession as an educator?
There has been so many teaching moments. I think that, in retrospect, I think that I would not have been here. One such person is a member of the Fab Five band. He was the acting director of the School of Music at that time. His surname is Cooper, Mr. Cooper.
Grub Cooper.
Ah, correct. And I remember doing an audition, and he was one of the lead judges. And I was so timid, I was so shy, and that would have been seen in my approach during teaching practice. And based on my posture and everything, that was conveyed to him, and so he encouraged me, and he spoke to me about confidence and owning my space and all of that. And I thought that talk helped me to develop more confidence in the classroom, and so I was able to manage myself and manage my classes much better.
And when I listen to the experiences thus far, it highlights again that role that persons will play in persons' lives in terms of being motivators.
Absolutely.
Now, listening to those stories, I would love to hear about a story where you can just relate to us about that one student that stood out to you.
Some years ago, I had a student who had several issues, including literacy issues. He did not join the class with any raw skill or talent that you could say that, this child is ready to take the stage or the world by storm in terms of performance, because that is the area. And because he had these challenges, students would not want to associate themselves with him. But you know what? He was the most hungry for development. He wanted to know more. He wanted to learn more. And so he would ask me questions after school, even during class, and he would express interest in learning and growing. And at the end of his tenure here, having done CXC in the subject, and speaking about a child that could hardly read and a child that did not have the skills and talents, but he wanted this. And so he was successful in his CXC, earning a grade 3. I'm proud to have been the teacher that helped to facilitate his learning and growth.
I just want to highlight that school should be a place where, in spite of the challenges or the deficiencies that the students have, it gives them that opportunity.
Yes, and he is indeed grateful because he has come back to me and he has expressed his gratitude to me for having helped to shape him to become a better version of himself. He came to me and he said, "Miss, you tried with me and I thank you." And that in itself is rewarding for me.
Wonderful story. Could you share with us a story about one wow moment since being at the Cedar Grove Academy?
One wow moment that I've had was in the year 2020. I had a group of students that I would deem to be a very rough set. But we worked together and they had the scope to express themselves. And that's one of the things that drama encourages, self-expression. They are encouraged to write journal entries as well as to verbalize their feelings. And I speak to them about issues that I don't like, and the same it is with them. And this, I would have spoken to a particular child about certain behavioral change that I observed, and I would constantly encourage them, created WhatsApp group, give them motivational talks before class, etc. And that child came to me saying that he appreciates me not just as a teacher, but as a counselor, as a motivator. And not only was I interested in his academic growth, but his growth in other spheres of his life. I was taken aback to know that this child had come to me to say that, because I would have been a little tough on them because I was not getting what I knew that they could produce. And that was how he responded to my efforts in helping them to be better. And so that in itself is a wow moment. And that child promised me, Miss, I will give you a grade 1. At the moment, I said to myself, you're not giving me a grade 1, you're giving yourself a grade 1. And indeed, he got the grade 1, and he called me and said, Miss, I told you I was going to give you a grade 1, and I have. At that moment, I didn't bother to say to him that it's yours, but I was willing to, accept the fact that I was a part of the process. And I told him that, yes, I am grateful that you kept your promise and you have earned that grade 1.
Wow, that is truly a wow moment. Tell us another story where, this experience would be considered to be very heartrending. And this experience is something that you believe must be shared with us.
One heartrending experience that I've had, I had a class at a previous school. I had a class that I think it was a troubled group. They had several behavioral issues. And I went to the class on this particular day. They were very unsettled, and I had a hard time getting them to calm down. It is important to know that this was one of my earliest classes. I would have just started teaching. So I went into the class, and the students, there was unrest among the students. And, I tried without any success to get them to calm down. And I decided I would start to pray with hope that they would, that would help to calm them down. I started praying, and that was when the noise escalated. Now, I considered that to be a heart-rending situation because I was approaching God, and there they were, increasing in the irreverent behavior. And I spoke to them, and at the end of my time at that institution, one of those students came to me and he said, Miss, I am grateful to you for the contribution that you have made. I know that you were sometimes rough on us, but I know that you did it for our own good. Sometime after that, I went back to the school and he saw me and he said, Miss, do you remember me? I am so-and-so with the stinky feet. That's how he remembered himself, as so-and-so with the stinky feet. But he wanted to let me know that he remembers me and he appreciated me. So, that part of it with the noise making and all that was the heartrending part, because I tried to intervene, by seeking the Supreme Being, and they did not respond in the way that I hoped that they would.
So you said that was when you were a first-time teacher.
Yes.
So you said you have been in teaching for?
Over 8 years, almost 9.
So compare that time now with your experience now. In the event that you have a situation where children are unsettled, how would you approach it?
I realize that as the years go by, I become more mature. I exert less energy shouting, but the eye contact work, the silence, the dead silence works. And what I also do is establish ground rules before I start a class for the semester. So we create the rules together, and I encourage them to stand by it, because you are the ones making these rules. So you must stand by it.
So if you were to share with a first-time educator the best practices, are you saying that praying will not work?
No, I'm not saying that praying will not work, because the Bible says pray without ceasing, and that the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. Because prayer has worked for me over time, over the years, during my teaching profession. If it were not for prayer, I would not have been here. I would not have remained on this journey. I continued praying before I go to each class after that episode that I had at that previous school, and it would have worked. And it's not that the prayer did not work on that day. It did. But you know, the Bible says when we try to do good, evil presents itself. And on that day, they did not win, because I did not give up and leave that class. I remained, and over time, those set of children calmed down.
Thank you so much for that clarification. Now, is there a tagline that you have as an educator, and you would love for us to remember you by this tagline?
Absolutely. As far back as I can remember, as I started teaching, driving the vehicle of expression to remove conflict with resolution, molding and nurturing new talents, soaring on the wings of artistic excellence. And I created that for my students, and I'm using it up to today. I do it as a tagline before starting each class. But I also use this mantra that says, the world is your stage, act right. And that can be used in every sphere of our lives. The world is your stage, act right. You are in the eyes of many people. So your attitude, the attitude that you project, should be one that is positive, so that people can emulate you. So the world is your stage. Act right.
There you have it. Miss Simone Bennett, teacher of excellence at the Cedar Grove Academy, teacher of the performing arts, and one that has remained outstanding. I would love for us now, if anyone wants to contact her.
We have our program, that we started right here at the Academy Morning Voice broadcasting show. I do adjudicating, I MC programs, I write plays, I write poetry. So whatever your interest is, you can contact me and I'll be available. Numbers are 867-5609, and that's the Digicel, and 707-9800. My email address, simybenny200@gmail.com. That's simybenny200@gmail.com.
So there you have it, teacher Simone Bennett. I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us, and I know that those who are listening will find it to be, inspirational and motivational.
Thank you so very much for having me, and I must commend you for the excellent job that you have been doing with your podcast. They have certainly been inspirational for us.
Thank you so much. So thank you for listening to another episode of our Inspirational Monday feature. Thank you.